So in this lesson, we're going to talk about identifying what conic section we're talking about based off the equation. So hypothetically, we could always complete the square and then use the basic forms, the general forms of the equations to identify which one's which, right? If we're talking about adding or subtracting two terms together, what do we have left over on each side, right? And then the thing with that, though, is it gets a little bit complicated remembering each specific piece. So in this lesson, we're going to specifically talk about, without completing the square, what we could do. And we have these 4 rules down here below. Before we get to them, though, the really important thing is be able to identify in this general form that's given up here at the top, right? We have to be able to identify what's A and what's C, right? We have A and C are our coefficients on the x squared and y squared terms, right? And then we have then these 4 rules right here. If A is equal to C, then we're talking about a circle, all right? If AC is equal to 0, which you can extend it a little bit further and say if A or C is 0, then we have a parabola, right? Because that would just give us one squared term. If A is not equal to C, such that A times C is greater than 0, then we are talking about an ellipse. And if A times C is less than 0, then we have a hyperbola, right? So 4 rules here we can use to identify what an equation represents, or which conic section. So let's start with this. What is A and what's C? All right, here in 1, A is our coefficient on our x squared term, that's 4. C is negative 25, right? So obviously A is not equal to C. We know then that AC is also not equal to 0, since neither of those are 0. So the question is, what's AC? AC will give us negative 100. And since that's less than 0, we can go ahead and say that's a hyperbola. For the next one, we have an A value of 1 and a C value of 1. So A is equal to 1, and then C is also equal to 1. And since A is equal to C, according to our rules up above, this will give us a circle. If we don't have an x squared term, you can picture it as 0x squared plus y squared if you want. All this means is that in this case, our A value is equal to 0. Our C value is equal to 1, right? And what that's going to say to us, if you want to look at it, is what's A times C, that would be equal to 0, right? 0 times 1. Or if you just know, like we said and circled up above there in the second rule, if A times C is equal to 0, then we're dealing with a parabola. And finally, all right, we have an A value equal to 9, a C value equal to 25, right? And if we say, what is A times C then, all right, and say 9 times 25, that's 225. The important thing is that we know that's greater than 0, which would then indicate that this is an equation of an ellipse. We'll get some more practice with this tomorrow. If you want to give a couple of these a try down below, they are relatively quick.